Nothing really that crazy or witty with this one. We're just gonna go and tell you that it is Cosmere Chronicles, the podcast where we follow two first-time readers, Justin and Cheetah, and we chronicle their journey through Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere series. On today's episode, we're not covering new chapters. Instead, we'll be continuing our one-star reviews of Mistborn, The Well of Ascension. So now, let's throw it over to the host of Cosmere Chronicles. This is Joe! Hey everyone, Joe here, and, kind of like what that thing said before, this is a continuing coverage of our Well of Ascension one-star reviews. We already did the first half, and this was originally one long video, but I really did not want to do an almost 3-hour long video of one-star review, so I cut it in half. So, for Justin and Cheetah, this is just continuing their pain. For you, I don't know if it's another week or what, but yeah. That's why this will be a little bit different without a kind of an opening thing, and we'll go right into those one-star reviews. All right, and now on to our next one-star review, and we have someone that just showed up, just walking in the door. Nick showed up.
Yeah, I was in the neighborhood.
Hey!
Get out while you can, you fool!
Oh,
Don't you know what we're doing in here?
I do now.
You will suffer.
Jesus.
All right. All right, here we go. Our next review. This story is mostly about war and religion, but mostly war. The fighting, war, insecurity, and false god became extremely tiresome. 2 out of 10 stars.
I'm sorry. Fighting and war got tiresome for this guy?
Yep.
Wonder what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Another-
Isn't the complaint usually there was too much talking? Isn't that what people usually complain about?
Especially
Yes.
regarding Well of Ascension
Mhm.
being not enough action.
Yeah. That's really interesting, yeah. All right. And he didn't... So it was war, false religion, and what was the other thing he said?
Insecurities, war, fighting, insecurities, and false gods.
That sounds like the most badass thing I've ever heard when you just boil it down to that.
There's no pleasing some people.
I'm sure you mentioned it, but all these are going to be from people who probably read Final Empire also. So they're not
Yes.
necessarily new to this. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
That
guess
was
there
all
wasn't
stuff-
a war in the first book, so I guess it got his approval.
Next review. Tedious with a side of. Why all the Kelsier bashing? Trying to make us feel like Elend was better? If Vin and Elend just spoke to one another, the book could have been at least 100 pages less. So what was Marsh doing all book? Did I miss where all the Koloss went after the fight? NM, I don't care. BC, this was a bitch to get through.
Just because they don't tell you doesn't mean it's like not thought out and there isn't an answer.
Also, it did tell us where all the Koloss went after the fighting, but alright. They were standing outside the city.
Yeah, but where did they go?
Yeah, what about after that?
Yeah, what about after that? He didn't know there was another book. He's legitimately annoyed. He's like, that's a terrible ending to a duel.
We never got
two-book
closure
saga.
on things like
Yeah.
where the Koloss went.
So weird. What a weird choice.
The first book was okay. This was excruciating to get through. Not super excited about book 3. Stormlight is
Committing.
a bazillion times better.
So they started with Stormlight then, huh?
What's that? Another book?
Another book.
It's another Sanderson book.
Oh, okay.
Right. I forget you guys know nothing about it.
We don't know shit. We don't know. I think
I mean, I know the names of some of the books and the names of a couple characters in some of those books, and that's more than
Then
I wanted
you-
to know.
you know
But
more
I
than
also-
we do.
I also know a new book just came out like a few weeks ago, and that's all my friends are talking about, and it sucks because they can't talk about it in front of me.
Mm.
Yeah, I've seen it. I saw the giant, big ass display at Barnes
Yeah,
and
this
Noble.
stands.
hmm
Yeah, that
I was
was
like,
awesome.
It would be if I could look at it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any spoilers from seeing the cover of
No,
that.
there was a picture on the cover, so I ain't looking at that.
It's like, oh my god,
Right.
that's Kelsier.
I
He's just back.
Yeah, I'm one who really hates spoilers. So someone starts
It's not
talking about something.
Yeah, for sure. And for the cover, it's not so much spoilers as I don't know anything. Literally any little bit of information could shade my perception of what's coming.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't want to start putting together like any pieces or any theories or anything about stuff based off of one image, you know.
Especially when it turns out to be wrong and you're pissed off because it would have been cool.
All right. Here we go. Let's go with this one. I strongly dislike this book. Rant time.
Oh, yay.
All right.
Do people Joe, please keep reading it like that. It's so fun.
Vin. Vin is insufferable. The Mary Sue of Mary Sues. Her perfection being constantly alluded to and acting as a major plot point more than once. Phrases like, she's too powerful and she's too clever for that are constantly being thrown out. She's not compelling. She doesn't think, but her instincts are always right? Then how about when she was sure the Well of Ascension was up north? That wasn't true. When
But
she
you
wears...
you just said her instincts were always right.
Yeah, she also thought that Set was a misborn.
Oh yeah, that was
There's
a
plenty
big
wrong.
one.
Are wrong all the time.
And her instincts about the Well of Ascension being north wasn't really instincts, it was these texts
Literally.
told us.
Yeah. Well, and Sazed, yeah.
They said lied. It's not an instinct.
When she wears a dress and spins like a princess, the dressmaker is in awe. This guy sees misborn women spinning in their dresses all the time, and suddenly he's like, I've never seen anyone spin with such grace before. Oh God.
You know, a complaint like that I can't even be mean to. That's just a matter of preference on what kind of
That's
story
so
and characters
funny.
you're looking for.
It's really
Like-
funny to see people be in a bad mood and say these things. Like, I feel like that sometimes when I'm angry and unhappy, everything sucks, you know? I'm just like, oh, yeah, not impressed. Like, you know?
Like, come on, can you do something badly or average, Vin? And when she convinced Strav not to attack just because she numbed out his emotions for a while, this is a normal human way to feel. Which shouldn't have left him so terrified. I don't know what this person's thinking, but having absolutely zero emotions and everything just completely numb is not a normal thing.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh.
Jesus.
Even
Oh,
people who
no.
claim apathetic, you're still feeling
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeez.
it's not that Vin
Maybe-
soothes his emotions down. She literally erased all of them, so he felt
No
nothing.
wonder this guy hated this fucking spin so much. He can't feel.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I know exactly what it's like to feel no emotions.
and everyone
super
does,
normal.
right? This is again
Yeah.
that Sunny joke when Dennis is like, I'm even feeling things again. You remember feelings? And
Yeah.
Mac's like, I have feelings every day of my life. What are you talking about?
He knew he was being led astray, yet obeyed anyway, even after her allomantic touch? This doesn't make sense. If the Hero of Ages is a fabrication, then why is she so perfect?
One, she's not. And two, I'm very curious to see how much of the Hero of Ages is a fabrication, you know? So there is something there.
Zane. Zane is the most cringeworthy Tumblr boy.
Well, he is. That's not inaccurate.
Oh my god, I never thought of it like that.
I tried to say to myself I would have loved this plot when I was a child, but no, not really. Sanderson is awful at writing what he calls insanity. The "you were supposed to save me" kiss scene made me want to barf. I had to close the book. What the fuck?
Oh, this guy's hilarious. I love this guy.
Every line thrown by him was so absolutely corny. Hated this. Also, when Vin finally came out of her infatuation with him was because she thought Ellen would not have jumped out like that when she went for a vial. Girl, what? 2 chapters ago, you were in this big crisis because he twitched when you touched him, because he was scared. Big inconsistency.
I'm having trouble remembering exactly what this
So
part is.
what they're
referring
saying
to.
is, because she saw like Ellen looked like he was scared a little bit.
No, that
after
part I
Vin-
remember. No, with Zane.
So when Vin
That's
was
what-
leaving, Vin was leaving with Zane, and then she went to drink a vial of stuff, and then he like moved or looked at her like he was suspicious that she was gonna try to kill him.
Oh, that's
Gosh.
that's totally different.
Yeah, I suppose it is. But I get what he's saying a little.
Oh yeah, I get it, but
Also,
being scared
It's-
because you just ripped a guy's head off or whatever, and your boyfriend twitched in like reaction to having seen that, and being scared that you're literally trying to poison somebody, I see those as very
it's
different.
totally different. Zane is a weirdo. He's twitchy and he'll never really trust you. I think that's actually an interesting comparison because despite seeing Vin be so scary and violent, he still loves her and he would not have ever flinched at her like that, you know? Like, ever would have thought that she was going to betray him, you know?
Mhm.
Where Zane.
Yeah, the betrayal thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, continue if you must.
This guy's still
Say-
going?
Yeah,
Holy fuck.
Sazed. Sazed's grief when Tindril died, so rushed. He wasn't in love for so long to have been at such a state after the battle.
Well,
I
this
would
guy has no
argue-
feelings. I don't trust his thoughts on love.
Yeah. Sazed has never probably felt anything like that in his life, so
Yeah.
he probably just found his 1 in a billion and lost her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he
yeah,
never thought he
Jesus.
was going to ever find love, you know,
Mhm.
being a eunuch and all.
The other thing is in like end of world times, people are gonna fall in love a lot faster, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, this guy, this poor man has no feelings. So.
In fact, the first time they interacted, he pushed his hand away from her.
Oh my.
Also, shouldn't he be dead after the fight with Marsh? After his health reserves ran out, shouldn't he have gone back to the way he was before, in the brink of death? That's how the other metals worked.
That I don't know.
Well, he or she, they're misunderstanding how it works, because when he had his health, then his body started healing. So his
Yep.
broken bones and stuff are now healed. When you stop burning it, they don't suddenly go back to being broken, because they're already healed.
Right, it's not like where pewter doesn't actually it heals you faster, but nothing compared to the ferrochemy.
Or
I
yeah,
see.
or like,
And it'll
like
certainly take away the pain until and keep you conscious.
Yeah.
yeah, because then he goes like, when he runs out of strength, he's weak again. When he runs out of speed, he's slow again. When he runs out of health, he remains healthy. Help.
Yeah, he's just not getting it.
Yeah, it's like those on. Yeah, because you become stronger, but then you go back normal. You become faster, then you go back normal. You super speed your health, your healing. Then when you go back,
Then
you
your
go back
healing
to
goes
whatever
back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are
This
still
fella.
healed.
Come on.
Like,
It's like, oh, your speed went back to normal, but you still covered that distance and didn't snap back to where you were.
Yeah, his speed
Yeah,
goes back and
exactly.
you just appear where you were.
Dang
That'd be
it,
the
my speed ran
stupidest
out.
fucking power
Yeah.
ever.
you just never stop running. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Besides, you're telling me a wise scholar who dedicated his life to intellect and theology just now had the identity crisis I had when I was a 10-year-old girl? Oh, okay, it's a girl.
Okay.
It took Clubs to tell him all religions can't be true at the same time for him to first consider it. Had he never thought that before? Did his skeptic
That's not what happened.
did his skeptic girlfriend never confronted him about this before?
This is one of those kids who grew up Christian and then like they were like, oh, obviously that's not true, and now they think anyone who doesn't come to that realization when they're 10 is stupid. It's one of those types, I assume.
Interesting.
Like the book Ready Player One.
I have to think Sazed probably had a different upbringing than her, but
Yeah, I'm also Sazed's had all these thoughts. Everyone has, to a point, but he didn't ever lose the love of his life before. And find
And it
out
wasn't
that
just
literally
that,
an
yeah.
entity was manipulating everything he'd ever read in all of time.
Yes, that's the
Pretty
one I always
a
think
little
about.
more than what any of us went through when we were 10 when it comes to any faith things.
Mhm.
During the first book, I thought Sazed's belief in all religions was endearing, and that there would be a reasonable cultural/spiritual terrorist explanation as to how and why he could achieve this. But the disappointing truth that the second book revealed was that he simply never thought about this contradiction.
No, he did. They talked about that.
Incorrect.
Yeah. It's interesting that they did like this aspect of him before.
Bonus? Sanderson, at least in this book, is awful at writing young characters, natural dialogues, and he always tells rather than shows. He becomes enamored with certain words or literary resources and repeats them several times in a few paragraphs. Also, you're telling me in the past they didn't inspect Creedic Shaw with the best allomancers, Vin included? How is it that suddenly she can find the secret passageway by detecting a thicker blue line? Help. Clubs and Dox were so out of character the whole book that I'm borderline glad they died.
Jesus Christ. Well, I really hate when people do a complaint like the literary device thing and then do not give me an example of what they're talking about. It's like when it drives me crazy on these. Because I'm like, I can't even comment on that because I don't know what you're referring to.
Also, rioting and soothing emotions seem so arbitrary at times. Rioting calmness is the same as soothing stress? What's the point of having these two separate powers then? I feel like in the first book they were more distinct. Well, in the first book there was like no rioter there. You used it sometimes, but the reason why
I'm not even going to go too into depth on a person who cannot feel.
I'm
I'm still stuck
I think
on
we've
that.
established that.
Yeah, anything about emotions, I'm just going to let them have. I feel real sorry for this person.
Anyway, this book felt like a cheap YA novel that was as rushed as this review. I'm angry. Bye.
Wow, they admit that the review was rushed and written just from anger. I am actually impressed with that.
Oh, they had feelings, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, I guess we're wrong. Most people who write these, though, they're like Gerald from South Park when he's doing those Yelp reviews where they're like, oh, yes, I'm speaking with the
has
of
a
the
glass of
ancients,
wine and starts, really settles in for a long rant.
Well, aren't you glad you stayed to listen to this, Nick? Or came in?
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
Gaining a lot here.
On it.
All right, next review. For the first time, I believe I'm an environmentalist. I feel sorry for all the papers that were wasted on making this book.
This is Gerald.
Yeah, this is the type of writer, yeah.
So it's so artsy. Let's hear it.
That's the review.
Oh,
that's it?
Not saying what was wrong with it, just that
he's
just
become
that they
an
didn't like the
environmentalist.
paper format.
Yeah.
How do they feel about the ebooks, though? Or the
so does this guy feel like this book was bad specifically, so he thinks it shouldn't have been? Or does he just think that now about books in general? He didn't actually specify. And he's been leaving this review. I find now that I'm an environmentalist on every book.
On every book. Yeah. Just once I
that's a good one. Yeah, I'm going to write it everywhere. I think it's really good.
Well, I'm sold.
Next review. I started this series because Brandon Sanderson did a good job of finishing The Wheel of Time. If those books had two primary flaws, they were the amount of annoying internal dialogue and the plot lines being excruciatingly stretched out. Example, knowing what will happen at the end of the book throughout the entire book, only to find out that it doesn't happen until the end of 2 more books from now. When Sanderson took over the series, the internal monologue didn't disappear, but I did notice several characters becoming more human, and in a couple cases, much funnier. But also, the series largely maintained its tone and theme. I firmly believe that a good writer who can convincingly write in another author's voice is a very good writer. If you haven't read Neil Gaiman's A Study in Emerald, go read it now. Well, first read some Arthur Conan Doyle, then read some H.P. Lovecraft, then read A Study in Emerald. It's amazing, and you'll understand my point about writers passing as other writers.
I haven't read that one, but I know what he's referring to. It was, Sherlock Holmes Cthulhu Tale. I'm actually super curious to hear what he has to say now. He's won my respect, so let's hear it.
All this led me to believe that Brandon Sanderson was a good writer. Then I read the first 2 Mistborn books. The Wheel of Time contains exciting, monumental events that take place in between long stretches of annoying internal dialogue. The Mistborn series consists almost entirely of annoying internal dialogue. I'm serious. I've never hated a bad guy as much as I hated all the good guys by the end of The Well of Ascension. They're all so self-centered, emotional, immature, and stupid. Well, Kelsier was
You're stupid.
Well, Kelsier was cool, so Sanderson killed him.
So he's another one of those. Is that it?
And almost nothing happens. The Final Empire is a cool world and all, and I've certainly read Systems of Magic way less interesting than Allomancy. But what good is a well-built world if every time a character leaves the one city where anything has happened so far, they immediately turn around and go back to the same city? Stagnant.
Bro, you
So
got one more book to read. Then you get it.
So let's make the second book entirely about a siege. There hasn't been an exciting siege since the Iliad.
Well, that can't be true. Sieges are exciting by their very nature.
And the politics are shallow and unexamined. Let's go to the scene where besieging tyrant number 2 shows up at a congressional session or whatever, and it becomes clear that one of the congressmen has invited an enemy of the state to be the new king. Not himself, and not some neutral third party. Everyone agrees that the two armies parked outside of the city are enemies of Luthadel. Elend, you didn't think to write a law addressing treason, buddy? There's literally nothing you can do about Congress handing the nation to the bad guys for free.
Bro,
Nobody's
that was the plot. You can say that, but they said that in the book. That was the whole point of it. He tried to give the people pure democracy, and it didn't work. That was the plot.
Mm-hmm. People made fun of him for that already.
For this guy starting up that he's so smart and well-read, I'm very surprised that you could say that that's a stupid plot, but you can't say that that's something that was overlooked in the plot. That's just annoying to hear said, because that's just wrong.
Nobody has ever deserved to be deposed more than Elend Venture.
Yeah, I think Elend would agree with you.
That's what, that was part of the plot. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, that's so strange of this guy to say.
And nobody has ever deserved to be eternally, will they, won't they, each other more than the I hate myself because I'm powerful Vin, and I hate myself because I suck just as much as everyone thinks I do Elend. And Zane, what the hell was that? I didn't read the third book.
Ooh.
Okay. I mean, all right. I had a lot higher expectations for this review with how much time he took to set up what he was saying about the writing in another style thing.
Should write a review for this review.
Yeah. I've
0
heard
out of
many
5.
times that people are impressed with Sanderson's ability to sound like the other guy whose name I do not remember.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Jordan?
Yeah, that was it, yeah. Because I feel like it would be so frustrating to have a book finished by someone else, but if they could emulate it and go off the notes, that could be really interesting.
Yeah. Now they can just have AI do it.
AI can't do it the way a human could do it, because they could only emulate the style. They couldn't emulate the new things a writer would come up with and how they present it. Not yet, at least.
Next one. Next review. Utterly disappointing. Spoilers ahead.
Oh wait, we read the book. Okay, we're okay. I heard spoiler got jumpy.
Part two is nowhere near the quality Part 1 had. The story overall is a drag, completely pointless, and without any real stakes. A lot of things are out of place. They completely ignored the anchor point of Book 1, which is the Ska suffering. The book has nothing about the Ska population, like the society completely forgot about them now that the oppressive ruler is dead. There is no redemption for them. I cannot fathom how in the world they go ahead and place a noble on the throne after 1,000 years spent being exploited. I don't care how much
Did he
of
say
an
there's no
idealist he is.
redemption for the Ska? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah,
What did the Ska need to be redeemed for?
I don't know. I'm also confused when he's saying that there was nothing about the Ska population, since that was brought up throughout the entire book.
Yeah.
It was brought up, but it is true we didn't get to see as much as I would have liked. But that's just a personal preference thing, personally. I would, yeah. But I want to know what they need to be redeemed for. I don't understand that statement at all.
I don't care how much of an idealist he is. And none of the crew members had a problem with him. Some kid comes and grabs the throne and everyone agrees, and everyone aggress.
That's not what happened.
How do you write such one-dimensional characters? Doxson should have lost his mind, to be honest.
I would say Doxson didn't like it.
No.
The dude was, he was, elected's the wrong word, but the closest they have in a world like this.
And
so the Ska have lost their redemption because they let Elend take the throne. Is that what I'm hearing? So this guy's like the citizen? Is that it?
Yeah. And, saying Doxson should have... They went over many times throughout the book about how Doxson did not like Elend and was upset at Elend. And that was a big thing with Doxson's character being like, Elend can't be a good guy, because if he is, then that means that Kelsier and I were killing all the nobles, and it was we were monsters.
Okay, so this guy
Shoot.
is a unironic noble hater. That's what it is. I see.
Yep.
They didn't revisit that though.
Which thing?
Where he said Elend can't be a good guy, or else we're terrible for killing all those nobles.
I would have liked to see that more fleshed out too.
It came up a little bit in his death scene, thinking about that sort of stuff during that.
Sure. Yeah, I think I remember.
We all agree we did not get enough time with Dox and R.I.P.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree with that. There was a lot of other storylines going on, so there was not as much Doxing as I would have liked.
That's a very different way to word it than what this guy's saying, but yeah.
He's my favorite of the crew, too. That's what we said.
There are a few new characters, and all of them have offer little to the story. That guy Zane was completely unneeded. What was even his story? His actions and his purpose made no sense.
Man, Zane is unpopular with some people, huh?
Yeah. The terrorist woman, whose name I don't care enough to remember, also didn't do anything worthwhile.
Boo.
I disagree.
Yeah.
Her training also didn't yield any concrete noteworthy action from Elend as well.
Are you kidding?
What? It's literally why he changed.
It's 100% because of Tyndall. I can't believe that. That hurts.
That
Don't
hurts.
speak of her that way. Yeah.
I don't even remember her name. Yeah, that's when this guy lost me.
Mm-hmm.
And Elend, bro. I never read a more frustrating character. Entire book is written to set him up for the third book, portraying him as weak a character as possible. His one supposed expertise of being a scholar and philosopher also didn't make sense. Maybe you should have a separate clause in your law book for times of emergency to stay immune to being deposed. What a tool.
I cannot believe that complaint annoys me so much. Again, you can say that you think that's a stupid plot for a book. That's fine. But to say, how could he not think of this, drives me actually crazy.
Especially since we know Elend was an idealist and all this. It's like, Elend, we know you're an idealist and you want to give people power, but why did you not set up a rule in your law to make yourself a tyrant?
Yeah, right. That's exact.
That's the complaint.
Like, if we look at the whole book, it seems to me like a lot of this book is a story of, what's the balance between, basically good and bad, because you can't just be good because the world's horrible. And you can take that to the ruin and preservation thing too, just that, nothing more complex than that, just that. So it drives me nuts when I don't know why they keep saying this stuff.
I'm always like, is this a very young person or very, not smart person who wouldn't see these things, I don't understand. Also, don't put that stuff out there if you haven't thought about it,
Also, Vin, it felt like she deteriorated as a person. I expected her to shed her fears of her street urchin life and become a little like Kelsier. You killed off that one good character in the story and then left a void there. Whose sorry idea was that?
Brandon Sanderson's.
Yeah, the writer.
And whatever happened to all the obligators and inquisitors? The baddies of part 1 are simply absent in part 2. The new baddies are a sorry lot of people who have no idea what they are doing as well. Such a letdown. Marsh was completely absent. The main guy who discovered the laughable weakness of inquisitors, helped kill the ruler, has no role in the follow-up story? And when he does show up, he has inexplicably turned bad. What the heck?
Inexplicably? It was talked about at length, wasn't it?
To be fair, the explanation for why he became bad is given in book 3, but it's heavily shown throughout book 2 that there's something off with him.
Yeah, and he says he doesn't really fully know what's going on either. Like, he clearly doesn't want to be attacking Sazed. I think saying he just shows up as bad is very incorrect.
No, yeah, he says, "Why are you doing this?" And
yeah.
I think he says, "I wish I knew," or something.
Yeah, something like that.
See, that's a cool mystery thing. It's not
almost like there's going to be a third book.
Yeah.
And ask him where all the Inquisitors are. We knew where they went. They went to Terrace and started killing everyone. I was so frustrated reading about this dull and eventless siege of the city with boring politicking and posturing. I also hated how Vin is given godlike powers right when she is about to lose. What's the point of having ATM if its one strength is also its weakness? I felt like tossing the book out of the window when she kills Zane like that. None of the characters of the crew are even remotely competent in helping her out of situation. I don't even know why are they even there in the story. Everyone, from Clubs, Breeze, Dox and Ham, are utterly useless. It wasn't a problem
That
in book
was
1 as they were given specific tasks and having them made sense. This time they're
Breeze,
just
yeah,
there doing absolutely nothing.
Breeze was absolutely not useless. You can't say that about him.
Oh, yeah.
He drove the entire plot.
also, I feel like that was kind of the point of the book. Like they're at a low point. You know, Kelsier's dead, and they only have Vin. And I don't know.
And in this book, Clubs is like the leader of the army, so he's always there giving like advice about
Mhm.
what the army's going to do next.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, and they are helping. They're kind of doing all the roles that Kelsier left for them. You know,
Mhm.
and struggling to do the job that was left to them and stuff. You know.
This book didn't need to be more than 100 pages with the story it had. So, in order to fill the pages, pointless subplots were written to the story, like looking for the spy. There was nothing of consequence there.
Yeah, I mean, just because it didn't turn out how you expected doesn't mean it wasn't.
How could you say that with a straight face?
That was a great part, the mystery there.
Yeah.
And very important. Like it had that's how they figured out all the stuff he's complaining about with how to use the power and or the thing.
Mhm.
I just don't know how you could even say that with a straight face. You can say you didn't like it, but to say it was of no consequence is just strange.
And they didn't explain the deepness well enough. It was the main plot, and it was still left unexplained. I have no inclination to read the third book now. I felt like being robbed of the importance of my life. I don't want to feel that again.
Jesus. Robbed of the
What?
importance of his life? Is that what it was?
Wow, that's something.
Jeez.
If only he had
That's
known that literally the epigraphs in the first few chapters would reveal so much. I mean, there's a third book. Not everything will be revealed.
And then he'd say that what was revealed wasn't even important to the plot.
Mm.
And he was robbed of the importance of his life.
Goodbye, Brandon
Oh my
Sanderson.
God.
It was a pleasure reading The Final Empire. I have no confidence in his abilities anymore.
Jesus. This guy sounds like we need to be put on a
Wow.
watch now. Holy
Oh,
moly.
yeah.
I always feel sad when somebody had this much pain reading a book that wasn't even bad. Like, what happens if they read a book that's actually written really poorly?
I know. Sometimes I feel like certain types of people just want to not like stuff.
I don't know. When they're this sad, I think they did try. Well, not try, but they hoped to.
I don't know what you expect. I don't know. I don't know. I've never read
They just wanted to
something
know what the
with this
deepness was, Shayna.
mindset. Yeah, I do too. Every day of my life. And I'm
Yeah,
robbed of the importance of my life every day, and it's fine. I want that on a shirt. No.
I'm robbed of the importance of my life.
What does that
Watching,
even mean?
just get a shirt, just watching The Last Jedi robbed me of the importance of my life.
Yes.
And this guy could make a mint off of that quote.
Oh man, yeah, I've been feeling that a lot recently with, so
Bye bye. Good night. I'm sleepy.
What? We've got 30 more bad reviews to do. Where are you going?
Next time. I think you
It's
guys
just-
got it.
We
It's
will
just
never
too much
see
for
him
Nick.
again.
Nick, unlike you two, Nick's not contractually obligated to sit here all day.
I guess
Mm.
not.
But
Good point. I did not
Hey.
sign the contract. As much as Joe pushed it on me.
dang.
Nick's a Condra, or Justin Cheetah, they have to follow the contract.
Yeah. You go enjoy having an actual life. We're just going to do this 24/7 from now on.
No.
Bye, Nick. Yep, and Nick has now left the podcast out of disgust.
Yeah, I see. Jeez, I'm sorry.
But let's move on to the next 1-star review. Love this series until nudity was mentioned in a sexual manner. I'm a Christian,
What?
and that's where I draw
I'm sorry,
my line.
Joe, come on. You gotta give me a moment to react to that absurd sentence. Give me a second.
But that's the entire review.
That's the whole review? Oh my god. So
Okay,
what part
where was this
that? Was
sexy
that when
scene?
Straff let the girl had his concubine girl?
Oh, I see. Maybe.
That's the only part that I can figure. It's either got to be that, or when the only other thing, maybe when he told Elend, yeah, I'll have sex with Vin and she'll scream my name. Well, wait, will she scream
Well,
my name or yours while I have sex?
No, but he said nudity was referenced in a sexual manner.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So yeah, it's got to be that one.
What
scene.
in God's name? But it was in a negative manner. It wasn't exploitative or like anything.
Like,
Plus-
okay, person, this is where you draw the line? Like,
Plus, it's Brandon Sanderson. If people know his writing, he's very tame.
Yeah.
It was pretty tame, yeah.
also
And he made it
breasts,
through
come
a
on.
book and then a second book, and then he was like, "Oh God, nudity in a sexual manner. I'm not reading this book." Jeez.
I was fine with them talking about having sex with the women and then killing them. But you say there's a boob, that's too far.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
part. And again,
Uh-huh.
that part was not exploitative. He was kind of grossed out by her. So, like,
It wasn't, yeah. It was all sad.
that's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy.
It was not sexy at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Yeah. All right. I'm done with these.
And now Shada has left in disgust.
No, it's okay. We only have 3 more.
Oh,
Oh.
God.
Next review. I was so close to just not finishing this one. A decent twist at the end. Not all that great or unexpected after Grace's twist in the first book. Can't save a book that is far too long and has next to nothing happen.
I mean, that's true. I don't know that I'd say that's the book I just read, but...
At the end of book 1, I feared that book 2 would be the Vin show, after finding her both boring and incredibly inconsistent as a character. I did not fear quite enough. Elend also becomes a POV character, and good God, I wish he had died in book 1. He is the ultimate bore.
Jeez. Brutal.
This review was written by Shada.
No. I would never say that. Helen's not boring. He's just... I won't say. I know
He's your
people-
favorite character now, you were saying.
Yeah, okay. It's not even a diss on him. He's just kind of a dweeb. It's fine.
He's not her type.
Because he hasn't...
No,
Your
he's my
voices?
type. He's my type. Yeah, it's just my only complaint was that I thought he was trying to horn in on Vin's story and stuff. Like, that's all. It was that his arc and his stuff was getting more interesting to me than Vin's stuff, and so I was like, hey, stop it.
So much of the novel is spent trying to convince the reader that Elend would make a great king, but all the proof shows far more accurately that although he is a morally good person, he not just unskilled but profoundly unsuited to be a king.
Yeah, I think we may have read the same book.
Yeah.
I think that was a big part of it. That idealism and morals are good, we all know it, but they don't always translate to real life, sadly.
He prefers to hide in his books, to wallow in his doubts, and to moralize and pontificate at others. He has no instinct for leading
Pontificate.
or skill at it. At best, he has a knack for writing laws and dreaming of a more equal future/society. He lacks...
That's the book I read, yep.
Just like, yeah, you're just describing what happened. I don't know why you're...
Pretty much, and what was supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
He lacks charisma and isn't particularly likable. Almost all of his popularity comes from trading off Vin's reputation and abilities. He'd make a great priest or lawyer/judge, but a truly lousy king.
Well, you know, bro, I think you read the second book, or this third book, you might start to think that maybe you're just reading the book that was written, as I said.
Yeah, that was just... They just pretty much said what his storyline was.
Yep.
He was not great at being a king, but he also learned how to become a king throughout that book.
I think the hope now, and we don't know if it will be, is that with what he learned about the real world and his ideals and stuff, hopefully he could be a great king. in the long
balance
run when
out.
the war ends. We'll see, though.
Again, I don't know if I want to be too mean to these reviewers because I don't think they're very smart. So I won't
I
be
think you
mean.
just were mean to them, Shada, by saying
Yep.
that.
I was gonna say some more stuff, but then I was like, you know what? It's not worth it because you know I don't know what their condition is. I'm not gonna
Their
say.
condition, jeez. Okay, you heard it, reviewer. You have a condition.
They're
Yeah.
not listening.
No, Justin, they didn't even read this book.
I found Vin's romantic antics last book annoying and out of place, but that's nothing compared to this book. Vin and Elend's romantic problems are more suited to a badly written young adult melodrama. It is widely out of place in adult fantasy, especially when every character has at least 5 far more pressing concerns than anyone's love life. Yet everyone drops all of their plots, spies, armies, demonic contracts, enemy politicians, surviving siege conditions, to focus on Elend and Vin's romantic romance and make announcements of their unwavering belief in how destined and perfectly matched the two are.
What are they referring to here? I don't ever remember that happening.
I don't know.
Maybe
There's
when they talked to
really-
Sazed that one time, but he's their good friend and kind of a moral advisor to them.
There is nothing that makes me believe less in a romance than everyone around the couple telling them how perfect they are. Also looking at you, Mockingjay.
Is that how that romance was? I've only seen the movie.
Which
It seemed,
romance? Everything sucks in there.
yeah,
You don't
it
know who
seemed.
you're gonna end up with. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Ida's a psychopath now, and Gale is a weird, like, revolutionary fighter. Like, there's no good romance in there. Unless they're talking about, like, Finnick and his crazy girl. Like,
I assume they're talking about PETA.
PETA? No. That book is so sad to me because they don't belong together. Like, it's just circumstance, like, and life made it so that, you know what? I guess I'll end up with PETA, you know? Like,
Yeah, the way I got it from the movie is grab what little happiness you can because you're traumatized and have PTSD.
yeah.
Not like true love blossoms even the most adverse of
No,
conditions. That's not the
circumstance and
story I remember.
randomness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Nope.
it'll bring you places you never knew, you know? Yeah, in the
Yeah, yeah.
trauma thing, yeah. That's
I
really
haven't
weird.
read the I haven't read the books, but I watched the movies, but I heard that people say that they built up the Gale relationship a lot more in the movie than they did in the book.
I've heard that as well. Is that true, Shita?
Built it up. Like throughout the whole
Like
series.
played it up more than it was. Like it wasn't a realistic romance that was likely going to happen in the book. That's what I've heard.
Um no, I don't think so. I think it was pretty good. Like they had more in common. They had like they grew up together and stuff, so like it's kind of like that, like a childhood kind of thing, romance,
Mhm.
like that
They
felt more natural before like all the war stuff happened, you know?
Continuing on with this, Sazed is also a POV character, which excited me until I realized how much time he was going to spend being the number one cheerleader for Vin and Elend's supposed epic love. When he actually focused on religious and historical matters, he was far more interesting. He and Marsh should have gone on epic exploration adventures instead. It would have been a much more interesting story.
I mean, I would have read that story too. This idea that they had such an epic love, I never got that sense ever that they were even trying to portray it as
Love for all
like a
eternity.
yeah, yeah, like a love that could transcend time and space kind of thing or something.
It's so weird. You know, maybe it's just that is it just a thing from these days where like relationships are really hard and if anyone got along, it's like an epic love. Like, oh, they just seemed like a really normal young couple, like that got along and like liked
Hmm.
each other. They didn't really seem like they had that great of a love,
Yeah, it
you
didn't
know?
seem like destiny or something,
Yeah.
or like the gods themselves bless this
Yeah.
union.
They were meant to be. It was written
Hmm.
in the
Their
Bible.
souls were
Like,
made for each other. Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing is people keep complaining, is this a young adult novel? When I'm like, to me, it has all the things of a young adult novel. It seems like it kind of
It
does share that
is.
genre. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like it's marketed to be one or anything. But I don't know why
I'm-
people keep saying that like that's an insult. Those are not like bad stories. They're just it's all marketing. It's not anything real. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So that's always just so weird to me as a complaint.
It does come up a lot, and I'm like,
Mhm.
like, I think, like, some people might be, like, embarrassed of reading those kind of books, and, like, they're like, "Hey, I wanted some kinda, like, um, Song of Ice and Fire high fantasy," or not high fantasy, like, fantasy-ish political thingy, and, it's not tricking me enough, into thinking that I am reading one of those. Like, I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
don't
"Oh,
think
in
it
those
ever hid
books."
that, you know?
Yeah,
That
because
aspect of it. It was always about this 16-year-old girl fighting an evil government, which is what those are always about, you know?
yeah, like, it's funny because, I think Song of Ice and Fire gets a pass, but I'm like, you follow Arya, Sansa, Daenerys, all these other young girls too, but then those get a pass because it's not as girly or
Well, it's
something.
not as
Like,
focused on romance. I think that's a big part of those a lot of the
I
times.
mean, some of the Daenerys chapters.
That was not romance.
Like, I kind of like
That
this new
is
guy, but
that is some creepy old guy grooming some poor young girl. That's how I interpret what was Bluebeard's name? I forget his name.
yeah.
Dario Naharis.
Those chapters. That's how I interpret him. He's like, oh, this stupid little girl I can get power from.
but but do I want to sleep with the bear? I don't know. Like, those are
Yeah,
my
no,
options.
God no,
Like,
Sheena. That is not that stuff.
All right,
Where,
let's
yeah,
get.
most of the books in that genre, romance will be a big thing of it. So when romance was a thing in this, I think a lot of people were like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you tricking me into reading here?
yeah.
And it's like I've read other like adult fantasy with romance thrown. Like
Mm-hmm.
I read First Law. There was romance put into that. It's not romance like this. It doesn't go as pretty, but there was still romance stuff there strewn throughout those books. But all
But
right,
was it romance of a 16-year-old girl at a ball? I think that's the question.
Yeah, they're just like, it's
no,
too blatant. You're not hiding it good enough.
Yeah.
no, it
Like if I have to think
a
about
lot
my pretty
darker.
dress, I'm not gonna do that.
Back to this review. Zane was horribly wasted potential. He started out well, but fell into almost every YA love triangle trope there was, to the detriment of
Oh,
his many actual interesting points.
what?
She was like, where are all these YA novels?
I know. Yeah, let me know.
The plotting, pacing, and story are woefully constructed. There are three armies surrounding our heroes. Tension should be at an all-time high, and yet the characters all put this off to focus on much lesser concerns, such as romance and whether Breeze has a working libido or not, and whether politicians like Elend or not. If the characters aren't concerned about the armies outside, why on earth should a reader be?
Okay, I would say that the politician thing is directly related to the armies outside, because who they choose is going to affect that.
Yeah.
And I also have to say, if there are three armies outside, that's when the most love is going to bloom, because you're naturally going to think I could die any day, you know? And your human instinct to, either procreate or couple up is going to take over. So that's a strange complaint to
I
me.
also think that was a huge point in the book because they're like, well, what are we gonna do, And we can just sit here and worry, or we can it was just a big
Or
point that
live,
they're
right?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they're just
You're
saying
not just going to
they weren't
sit there and think I'm going to die. Yeah.
yeah, they weren't ignoring that fact, and it was kind of a interesting thing that they're like, Vin's concerned with the mist, and she's like, "Why am I so worried about that when we have three armies,
Hmm.
coming at us?" So it was never not acknowledged and stuff. I think, in my opinion, so it's not like he didn't care about it. It was like it was just supposed to be overlaying thing on the other stuff happening in
Hmm.
the short characters.
The other thing is they said many times they had a sense of the timeline they realistically had before anything would happen, you know. There were outside factors that rushed it, but it's not like they were like we could be attacked any second. They kind of knew Straff wasn't going to attack right now.
Yeah.
And they were constantly working to try to get the teams to hurt each other, and they were constantly doing plans to deal with that. That's just a strange I think that if it was the same exact book, but they never had any romance in it, this guy would not be complaining about that.
Yeah.
I'm also quite annoyed at the casual misogyny. Everyone in a
Oh,
position
God.
of power is a man. Seizen's
Oh,
new lady
no.
friend only gained a position on the Keeper Council by spending 30 years constantly being whored out in the Lord Ruler's terrorist breeding program. Poison is a cowardly, jealous woman's weapon. Also, mid-20s is old and ugly and useless. Who knew?
Yep, that was Brandon Sanderson's quote there. That's what he thinks, guys.
Elend and Vin's own friends tell Elend he ought to be embarrassed and ashamed that Vin protects him in a fight. Vin, Vin, the girl who's the super special powered ultimate magic assassin who killed the freaking Dark Lord. Yeah, God forbid she better you in a battle.
So where's the misogyny? Besides Straff, who was a misogynist, I'm still waiting for it. You're telling me that in a medieval setting that there were a bunch of male characters in charge of the military and government, and you're telling me that somebody told Elend he should feel something about something some other character did. So I'm still waiting for the misogyny.
I don't. They're saying that Tindwyl only was on the synod because she spent years being whored out, which is not true. She was on the synod because she was a keeper and was smart. It had nothing to do with her being in the breeding program. That was just another part of her backstory.
That's so sexist of them to say that. Like, that's not even true. She's a really well-respected member of their society, and I think that's...
This is somebody who was offended by Straff saying that 20 was too old.
No, Brandon Sanderson said that, not Straff.
Yep, Brandon.
And I do not know what the hell they're talking about where they're saying that Vin and Elend's friends were telling Vin he ought to be embarrassed that Vin protected.
No, that was just... yeah.
Wasn't it more that they were trying to say that Elend cannot rely on Vin to protect him at all times and he should learn how to actually fight? That's how I recall it.
I think that was Tindwyl coming in saying that as a leader he should learn how to hold himself as a fighter. I don't think that like Ham or Breeze were like, Helen, you're a bitch.
What a loser. Your girlfriend protects you and stuff. I don't think I remember.
You're a little bitch, Elend. I like that.
Unless I completely missed something or forgot something, I don't think that happened.
I do think there was a part where Clubs or Breeze, or not Breeze, or Ham or somebody said, you've got to learn how to fight. I remember it was Tindwyl who actually convinced him to take that stuff seriously, but I feel like there was something like that.
I think he had a tiny moment when like Vin and Breeze were sparring and he felt a little bit like...
Yeah, that was it.
Silly, because Vin is so small and he's like a guy, and I think a moment where he just kind of thought that. That's what I remember.
Joe, you got to lead with this on the review. Then I would know not to take anything else that was said earlier seriously. People who talk like this are people who you can just negate most of what they're saying.
Vin also has terrible tacked-on femininity. She might be the ultimate fighting badass, but it's okay because she likes dresses. But wait, she thinks she shouldn't like dresses because she doesn't think of herself as feminine enough. So she'll punish herself by not letting herself wear dresses. Yeah, less angst about denying ourselves pretty dresses while 3 armies camp outside the city and threaten to starve everyone and then murder all our friends.
God, people are so hard on characters for having like a human thought while shit is happening.
Yeah, the girl is like 17 or something. Like,
Well, I just mean, if there were 3 armies camped out there, I would still need to do things like use the bathroom and eat, and I'd think about things, and I'd probably still want things, Probably still listen to music and like read a book. I wouldn't just sit there and agonize about it the whole time when I'm spending like 90% of my day trying to deal with it already.
Yeah, I think that's pretty rich coming from someone who probably has a pretty cushy life and stuff, like...
Yeah, true.
Also,
like, cushy enough to read a book like this for fun, like...
Also, her trying to stay away from the dresses had nothing to do with her thinking that she should not be that feminine. It had to do with more of a class thing. She felt like she was a ska and a street person, and that she should not be wearing these dresses, and that Elend does not deserve her, and that because she was also a killer. She felt that as a Mistborn, she should not be wearing the dresses. It had nothing to do with, I'm not girly enough. That was not the reason.
Joe, class is just another word for the patriarchy, so I think you're making this person's point for him.
Oh yeah, that's totally true.
Also, It's not like she was like, Ellen, I'm going to go buy some pretty dresses, and then left. It was more like she was kind of half forced to. And then she was surprised by, the feelings she had when she was doing that shit.
It's okay to just write a badass without having to be super girly on top of it to prove she's still feminine. Picturing Kalena from Throne of Glass, another ultimate assassin who also giggles over pretty dresses. Or write a girly...
character can... There are plenty of characters who are badasses who are not girly. What's the complaint here?
I think this is the type of person who thinks that a tough girl or woman should just be butch and masculine or something.
Oh, you're talking about the kind of person they're trying to pitch things to nowadays who is not going out and watching anything anyways?
Yeah, like, we don't need to be a girl, like, or to be a stereotype or something.
You don't have to. There's nothing wrong with it. I always get really triggered by people who are like, I hate that this story isn't like this imagined idea of how I would want a story, even though there are stories like that out there I could go read instead. It always drives me nuts.
I'm like, that has no business here because this is a different story.
Mm-hmm. If I wrote this, all the characters would be different,
Yeah.
Or write a girly... Alright, continuing the review. Or write a girly badass.
Going?
Yep. Or write a girly badass and own that. Why must there be an angst-ridden dilemma about how the part of her that likes dresses must be fake and therefore repressed?
Okay, I'm going to say what you already said. This whole element has nothing to do with her feeling like a girl or like more of a boy. It has to feel with her growing up poor and constantly on guard to getting a glimmer of this noble life and liking it, and then feeling like that's frivolous and stupid to do when everything's so serious. It's actually kind of just going with what exactly they were saying earlier they think that the book should be like grappling with those feelings specifically. So this person's just fucking stupid. I'm sorry to say, they just are.
Yes. Again, with the we don't know what their condition is, so we cannot like.
Oh, we know what this person's condition is.
But mostly, this book just gets a low score for being so boring. I want to point out that I love overly political fantasy and siege warfare both. But this book really doesn't bring either of those to the table. Too busy with its bad YA love triangle melodrama instead. Disclaimer, I love YA. I've read good love triangles. I've read good melodrama. I'm not saying those things make something bad by default. This book just does them badly.
There you go. Finally, they're honest. They just thought it was boring.
I don't think he was trying to do that, though. Doing a YA novel. Good. Oh yeah, please list your favorite novels that are like this, though.
On to the next review. This book pissed me off to the point where I did not want to come back to this series for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Ellen becomes the major protagonist. Vin regresses into an insipid girl. Hope you like watching Vin being slowly pushed aside for the most boring character. Again, it's a sausage fest with almost no women in sight.
Well, I know I don't have to take this review seriously then. Go on.
Hey, this is basically my review when I started to read it.
Not the sausage fest part.
The plot is a jumble of slop that I am not going to expend the effort to describe in metaphor. The relationship sucks as well. It makes me want to be celibate with how unbelievable and embarrassing it is. It's like a cold shower of literature.
What?
I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's that hard for you to stay celibate. I'm just going to say, based on this review.
That's personal. Jeez.
Zane was Zane was Sanderson's most refreshing character, but from his insistence of having Vin save him, I knew he was going to be killed off to demonstrate that Vin should only desire good, mentally stable men, to subtly teach women that fixing men is a toxic idea.
Whoa.
That is so...
Okay. What? Okay, it is a toxic idea. Why are they... We should be teaching that we should get involved with people with incredible mental illness with the purpose of trying to change them to what we want them to be is like one of the most unhealthy things I could ever imagine for a story. That is not the direction I thought this was going to go.
Wow, what an elegant allegory that doesn't make me feel like I'm being narratively slapped in the face over and over by a nice guy.
Oh, because Brandon Sanderson is nice. He's one of those incels who are like, why don't girls ever like a nice guy? They only like toxic, psychopathic serial killer types like Zane.
The conflict between Vin and Zane is a weak mechanism to give Elend and Vin's relationship more merit. Instead, it makes the audience realize they would be so much happier with the story being told in any other POV, but our dim-witted MCs.
Like whose?
Well, we could always use more All-Rian POVs.
Yeah.
Zane was a stupid aside to force her to suddenly want to marry Elend while she hemorrhages out of her tit. Because when I've just...
What?
This
Go on,
person
I
is
need that
freaking
explained.
colorful.
Because when I've just escaped pneumothorax and I'm bleeding out, my number one priority as a woman is to make sure my whoopee ship is religiously sanctioned in case I die or whatever.
I'm sorry.
Maybe
Wasn't that the whole point? That she thought that what?
it's the point
What are they
was she
trying to
realized
say?
She's trying to say this person's trying to say that marriage is just a societal concept and doesn't prove two people are in love, so it shouldn't matter.
Oh, right. But
AKA
that was
missed the whole point of everything that was happening. That the
yeah.
symbolic aspect was what Vin was trying to do, because she wanted to officially let him know and just go forward saying that, she knew who she was and what she wanted.
Yeah. The whole point of marriage for Vin was that. Yeah, it was a symbol for her commitment to become this new person instead of being half in, half out with what's going on with her.
And being somebody who could trust another person at that level, stuff like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
maybe that's just part of Sanderson's Mormon sensibilities.
Oh.
Again, I don't think that's part of it here.
I have not once felt like that's a really part of his writing. I hate people who put like.
Well, no, it's obviously not, because he makes up religions and stuff, Somebody who's trying to preach that, then the lesson would be that it is that religion,
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I that's what I believe.
I honestly would rather she left with that weird creep than be with wet blanket dick stuck in a book McGee after reading that scene.
All right, this person has totally won me back over after dick stuck in a book McGee. That is the funniest shit I've ever heard. I am sorry for ever criticizing your review.
Oh my god, that is so good.
Vin wrangling Zane instead of wringing her hands over pee pants the whole book would have been so much more engaging, even if that would have been too toxic, complex, and dark for Sanderson to dare tackle.
Yeah, toxic, complex, and dark. That's what it would have been. Yep.
Oh my goodness.
The thinly veiled attempts to steer the audience's opinions towards characters makes me want to spit on Sanderson's glasses so he can see a little clearer when it comes to disguising his agendas.
Wait,
oh my
the
gosh.
author's agenda to make you like the protagonists?
Yeah, how dare
I don't know
he?
if agenda is the right word for that. When it's
Any-
and then
any
Spook
kind of
jumped
plan
out
is an
and he was
agenda,
on
just-
fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he has an agenda for me to think Spook is cool now.
Yeah. It's so thinly veiled. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's thinly veiled.
You can't just tell us how to feel about a character by having the protagonist constantly repeat it at random intervals. You simpleton! He drives the audience to...
I love this review. This is the best one.
He drives the audience to hate Elend and love Kelsier even more because of his ham-fisted attempts to sway the audience.
I mean, what?
I never
so-
thought that. No.
Is this somebody who also hates the part where, like, man, Kelsier was a bastard? Like those kind of people who just hate that?
I
would
assume
assume.
so. Anyway, Zane was the best character, which isn't saying much. Vin, Sazed, and Elend suck ass. The side characters are tolerable because they aren't the nitwit trio of protagonists.
You don't diss Sazed. No. This review sucks. I take it back. I hate this review.
Brandon
Sazed's
Sanderson.
great.
Brandon Sanderson.
They missed the chance to call Sazed no dick in a book, McGee. I'm very disappointed.
Well, they had to spend the rest of it just bashing Elend. until it brought up Seiza there, I thought Sheeta wrote this one. All right. Brandon Sanderson, start writing short pieces with only 2 to 3 characters so you can figure out how a human with depth behaves, for fuck's sake.
Write a book with 2 to 3 characters? No, thank you.
Write short pieces.
Man, even a short story, that's, thank you.
Better yet, write them all as women, without any misogyny. I don't think Sanderson could do it, but I'd love to see him try.
All right, somebody tell me, what was misogynistic in this book? Being as generous as possible to this reviewer.
I'm pretty harsh on that, but I can't really pick out anything that's just not character-y. Meaning just Ellen's dad.
Yeah, Straff probably would be the only example with the way he treated people, but it's not like it acted like that was a good thing.
Okay. So we got nothing?
Not for me.
Like, yeah, if you think if you define misogyny as having any guys before girls kind of thing, then I guess you'd have a couple things to complain about. But
I will use the dictionary description according to Oxford Languages: dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women.
Yeah, just Straff.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
Straff.
Characters. Yeah, absolutely. But using a misogynist character is a way to be against misogyny. Unless Straff is a thinly veiled way for him to, what was the word they used for trying to get us to like characters?
So like ham-fisted. And
yeah, way to what?
Let me. I'm having to search this damn review.
Okay, never mind. Not worth it.
Well, now we have one more review left. This one's a longer one, but this will be the last one for this book. I can't do it. It's just too bad. I hate not finishing books, but I have read the equivalent of a normal-sized novel in pages, one that isn't a behemoth, and nothing has happened or nothing anyone cares about anyway.
Did this person just call this book a behemoth?
Man, I feel so bad if they ever see the book Wind and Truth.
Well, I'm like, this book is like the most, like, I'm looking at it right here. It's like a standard book size. Like, what do they read? Frog and Toad? Is that what they're used to?
Hey, don't diss on Frog and Toad.
I'm not dissing it. I'm saying it's short.
Well, it's longer.
Like, hand them War and Peace and see what they think. Jesus. Or Atlas Shrugged.
Those are real books, Justin. Person doesn't read.
I would call those behemoths.
Also, we don't know their condition, Justin. Remember that.
Once again, by this point, they've probably already read Final Empire, so...
Yeah, it's not even like really much longer. What are they talking about?
Yeah, I think it's like 30,000 words or 40,000 words longer than Final Empire.
Yeah, jeez.
Which, granted, that is like one like novella length, but... And this one, they have their complaints separated into sections, so that can
nice.
Happen. First, characters. Vin is complete Mary Sue. She's so super special, the most powerful Mistborn ever, and she's so cool. There is an actual scene at the start of the book where the other characters all stand around talking about how great Vin is. I'm not joking.
I don't recall that. What was the scene? Do you remember?
Is it when she's fighting with Ham?
That's my only guess.
Oh, yeah.
Or sparring with him?
They do talk about how cool she is. That is true.
She did just kill the Lord Ruler by herself.
Throughout the novel, people are constantly praising her for how wonderful she is, and it's not interesting to read at all. And not only is she super powerful, the most powerful in the world, but everyone also loves her even after meeting her once, and she's almost super beautiful. And multiple people pointed out, including the enemy. Because a female main character must always be beautiful. It's the rules.
What? I mean, I'm going to be honest and say that most protagonists are going to be, not ugly, so. But I'm going to be honest. Anyone hit me out there, I'm not that into Vin, just personally, so. I don't know that I agree.
Like her description?
Yeah, I'm not going to date her.
She's described it as, a young girl, thin, petite, and kind of tomboyish a little bit, But they never say she's, like, beautiful. They just say, like, she's...
Well, they say she's attractive.
Really? Who says
She's
that?
not an uggo. Everyone loves her and everyone likes her,
Oh,
and she looks
yeah,
good at
she's
the
not
ball, and no one makes fun of her for her looks at a ball. So she
Yeah,
definitely
yeah. I
looks
think she.
like at least fine. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, "My God, Vin, you look good in that dress."
Even Kelsier. Just kidding. He never looked at her. That.
He did, but like people like Kelsier and Ham and stuff, they're looking at her like a daughter. They're
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, you look really good. And people like
Yeah. This guy's
and
right. The
people
book
like
should have been. And then Vin walked out, looked like a hog with makeup on, but everyone was very polite.
and people like
I-
Straff. He's not really like, oh man, she's hot. He's more like, I want what my son has.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
If she was super hot, Straff would have said so.
yeah. We know Straff's type.
I will not go into what that type is. Go on, Joe.
She's also insufferable. Her whole "I'm not like other girls" attitude is horrendous, and Sanderson's attempts to counter it were weak. She immediately hates both of the only women in the whole book, and one is because the girl likes dresses. Kind of like you did, Vin, in the first book when you were pretending to be noble and you became shallow and annoying.
Does she hate Alrion? That's a bit harsh, I'd say. I
Uh,
think
Vin?
that she's like everyone else and assumed that she was just an idiot.
she wasn't the biggest fan of Alrian.
Well, no, not the biggest fan.
And don't get me started on her relationship with Elend. First, it smacked of insta love in the first book, but whatever. Let's pretend they're in love when they've never had a proper conversation. But the
Ugh,
second book just takes the biscuit.
takes the biscuit.
Ooh,
I like that.
maybe they're British.
When asked what she would do if she were all powerful, our main character, our strong female protagonist, the girl who hated being powerless and wanted freedom for oppressed people and killed the big bad guy, said she would protect her boyfriend. What? I
Who's
swear,
that?
I hope she dies.
Jesus Christ. Was her main motivation
Oh.
to free all people? I don't remember that. Am I remembering that wrong?
Well, she wanted freedom for the ska.
Yeah, but like in the same way everyone else does, right? She wasn't like
Yeah.
Kelsier or somebody. What's always been interesting about Vin is she's, not a bad person, but she's not that married to the like good cause. She just happens to be with good people.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, she's about self-preservation. Like she's
Hmm.
surviving on the
In the first
streets.
book, especially, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like take
And
care of yourself, run away, save yourself, kind of.
Also,
and
is it so crazy that if somebody got ultimate power, they'd want to protect the person they'd loved? That seems like a pretty common answer for a good guy character to have.
and Vin wanting to protect Elend above everything else. Yeah, that was her main thing throughout the entire book. But that's because that's her character arc, because she's trying to protect Elend the entire time. So that's why it makes it such a big deal at the end, where she chooses to sacrifice Elend to release the power in the Well of Ascension.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So so what they just said wasn't even true because that didn't turn out to be true at all.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
think they finished the book.
Oh,
Remember,
See,
I
that's
guess
the
not.
problem.
The first thing they said they read the equivalent of a normal book and stopped.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So
They did
they
say
Again,
didn't
that.
then you lost your right to complain about it. Like, how can you feel like you can complain about it when you didn't finish? I don't understand that.
Well, you can just say this sucks, but to complain about the narrative and arcs, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, you can just say not my jam, whatever, but when you
Mhm.
say this or that, they never answered this or that. I'm like, how can you even say that when you didn't finish?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's like if I
Stupid.
watch Terminator and I'm like, this movie sucks. I can't believe they just get chased by a robot and nothing ever happens at the and they just get chased forever. What a terrible movie.
Why is Elend king? It makes no sense. Nobody liked him in the first book. He was an outcast amongst nobles. He's seen as childish, spiteful, and purposely contrary. One of them even tries to kill him. But then suddenly the Lord Ruler's dead and some of the nobles flee and he is made king? Just because no one can really think of anyone else? I thought the whole rebellion was about overthrowing the oppressing ruling class, as well as the big bad guy. But then the nobles are just in charge again, and a kid is king? Okay, sure, I believe you.
Well, I can tell you why
Um,
he's king. He made that terrific speech.
Also, like, I thought the same thing, but I'm like, now they have spent a lot of time just like explaining why that happened,
Mhm.
why and then like the whole world agreed, or not the whole, like a lot of people agreed that he
Uh-huh.
wouldn't be a good king. That was the whole point of that book. Like,
Well, even
and,
so,
Elend-
he needed to be. It was either him or just an open ska revolt where, like, it gets to be like it is in this next book. Like, that was for stability, So it's strange to me, people who want just the hardcore overthrow so bad and don't think about what that's actually going to look like and how horrible it's going to be for everyone, This was
I think
like
you.
the closest middle ground you could have that was going to be the best. It's just Ellen had no idea what the fuck he was doing.
And the other thing too, it's he was the person that can do it because he was a noble, so that way they will kind of accept him. But he's also the only noble the Ska would accept.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And it's not like the crew was happy they put Elend on there. That was a big thing with Doxson is he felt like they were going against Kelsier with putting Elend on the throne.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there was a lot of controversy about putting him back up there. So it wasn't like they didn't disagree with you.
Well, they again probably didn't get that far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
They
and Elend gets
they read a full novel's worth, which by their logic is about the length of Frog and Toad, like I said. So they probably
like
didn't
2
get that far
paragraphs.
at all. Yeah, or a Dr. Seuss book.
None of the secondary characters are fleshed out and are insanely one-dimensional. One of them is meant to be an imposter, Body Snatch, but there are no clues to who it could be because none of the supporting cast had any personality to begin with. So how can we possibly notice if they acted any different? And other names
you're
are stupid.
complaining about that when you didn't get that far? What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm telling you, the clues are all there.
Well, to say the clues weren't there before you have it revealed is so stupid. I mean, you just say, I didn't figure it out, so it's impossible to figure out. That's crazy that you'd say that. You make yourself look like such an idiot.
Yeah, again, I don't know why you would feel comfortable saying that stuff so loudly. You're just gonna come off like a dumbass.
And all their names are stupid and sound like a 5-year-old came up with them.
I don't think any... Okay, let's...
Being mean. They're just being so
I
mean
don't
at
think
this
that a
point.
5-year-old could come up with Ariane. That's the one that I think would be a bit complex for them.
I don't know. That
Maybe
one's the one
some
I
of
feel
the
like
other
would
ones.
be.
Well, and the point of the crew is they've been working together and they're like a crew of thieves, so they come up with nicknames for each other.
Yeah.
Breeze is not his real name.
What kind of kid would come up with Doxson? That's what I want to know. That's such a boring grown-up name.
The female characters are laughable. Another reviewer described the first book as a sausage fest, and that's completely accurate to the second book,
Hey,
too.
you read that. That's
2
funny.
female characters are introduced, but one, the typically feminine one, is immediately demonized by every single character, and the other is written so poorly that I wanted to die whenever she was around.
They talking about how did I forget her name?
Tindwell?
Tindwell? That's terrible. Why would you say that about her? Jeez.
Thanks. We love women, right?
I will never not get triggered and angry at this complaint. Like there's some rule about the girl to guy ratio in a story that if you don't do, it's automatically a bad story. Well, I guess I can't read Pride and Prejudice or Sex and the City or something with a more girl-centric cast because there's not enough guy characters.
And Sazed is so boring. My God. Reading anything from his viewpoint made me want to rip out my own eyes. He almost made me miss Kelsier, and he was shit.
Whoa. No, this can't be a real review.
Then
Nobody thinks
more.
that.
Who reads that and thinks?
I want to know, after reading that, how did they get through Final Empire?
Yeah, what's the review about that?
Because clearly, they don't like Vin, they don't like Kelsier, they don't like Sazed, they don't like Elend. How did they get through the first book?
What do they like? Yeah, why did they read it? I can't understand people.
The villains are laughably bad. I mean, the Lord Ruler was kind of pathetic, but these guys are just terrible. Strap Venture is such a one-dimensional bad guy that Voldemort is jealous. Zane,
I don't know if I'd call Voldemort even one-dimensional. He's actually pretty complicated, like in his backstory and stuff. But Straff is Oh, maybe the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, because movie
But-
version, they didn't do his backstory in Half-Blood Prince.
I don't really understand with Straff because he's supposed to be pretty simple. There's people like that in real life who aren't very complicated, you know. And he was a commentary on those, and he was used so sparingly. That's weird to me. I don't know what you want. You want Straff to be sympathetic or something? Is that it?
I hate this person.
Zane is predictable. Talks of Vin once and thinks she might be able to save someone past the sick bucket. Set, the leader of the other army, is non-existent almost 400 pages in.
Yeah. So.
And I just don't care about why the mist is killing people or if there's a different big bad guy. I just want them all to die.
Wow.
Jeez. Just want them all to die. I hear people
Why?
who are like, I don't really care what happens, but to actually want the characters to die is pretty epic.
Like, just stop reading this. Like, if you hate
They
it so
did.
much. Like, I mean,
no, stop reading in the first book. What is the story that you'd continue it? Or, yeah, I don't know.
sometimes when reviews are this bad, I just think these people just want to watch the world burn. They go into a book and they just like say all these mean things to hurt people who enjoy it. Like,
World building. The world
Oh,
building
God.
is so weak. Even the city we spend most of our time in is barely fleshed out. But I don't even know if the rest of this empire exists. What's going on in all the other dominances? How big is the empire really? Is there any cultural, linguistic, racial diversity? What are all the nobles doing? Who are the people in the assembly? Why has nothing changed about the city despite the revolution and then a siege? Why does nobody feel like they're from this empire? Why is the map so shit?
it's just
Okay, this is way too many questions. I was going to try to talk about them, but that's too many. But you
And a
know,
lot
when
of
I read a book, when I watch a movie, like I'm watching Die Hard, it's based in New York. I'm like, yeah, but what's happening in California? That's always what I think when I'm reading or watching something like that.
I thought Die Hard
What's
was
happening
in
over in
California.
Australia? Was it? Oh my God. No, Die Hard 3 was in New York. Then the opposite question.
And like so many of these questions were answered in the book, like any cultural, linguistic, or racial diversity, like terrorists being in there, they're a different thing. You had ska.
Also,
and,
didn't they ask how big is the empire when they also said they hated the map?
yeah,
this person is just a hater. There is no need to consider them
Yeah.
for anything.
They're-
I'm
asking-
not even gonna acknowledge that.
who the people are? Is the assembly is that gets answered? Why has nothing changed the city except it has, and that gets explained? It's all so many of these questions got explained in the book. They just didn't understand it or didn't pay attention.
They don't care. They just want to complain. This is why I hate these, and I'm glad this is the last one. There is no point. People
Until
like
Hero of
that
Ages.
don't have a reason. No, Joe, I refuse.
No,
But
Shitter, every single review is very well thought out and based on something that could change your mind if you just understood
oh
what
my
they were
god,
saying.
no. My brain feels just like mush after these reviews because I'm like, there's no sense in trying to make sense of them because these complaints are baseless, and most of them haven't even read the book. So
Yeah,
I hate
one that
this.
specifically hasn't. That's especially pointless
This
to take
is
seriously.
pointless. Either you're gonna have to have Nick sub in for me for these, or I'm not gonna do them. Like,
Plot. The plot is hideously boring. It begins with a siege. Great. Sieges can be exciting, so let's do some cool stuff now. And oh, wait. Let's do some random Mistborn shit. Okay, now let's see some tension. And no, Elend is getting a makeover first. Okay.
Oh gosh.
So, can we see how the city is coping with the siege? And what? Ben's going on a shopping trip to get a new dress? What the fuck is going on? Sanderson found a way to make a siege boring. And a siege where the city is being besieged by not one, but two armies. And it was dull as dishwater.
I gotta know, what is siege? Everyone always talks about this. What is this epic siege everyone likes so much? I would like to know
Siege-
for contrast. Like
Oh,
a
I know,
siege by
it's-
definition is kind of boring. Like nothing is happening. You're just starving out the other side. So I'm
it would
very
be the
curious.
most boring thing to watch.
The
Yeah,
Iliad?
what is?
Did these people read the Iliad?
Maybe they watched the movie Troy.
Is
Also,
that
yeah.
really a siege? Isn't that more like an open war in that movie from the trailers, if I remember?
I don't know. I assume. Well, the Iliad's the end of a siege. It's been going on for 10 years, so we're seeing the very
Okay,
end.
so it's not the siege.
So
I need to
when the
see what
exciting
is the
stuff starts
siege
up.
everyone likes. Yeah. I'm not complaining. I'm just curious to know what
If
people
you,
are
listener,
referencing.
know of an epic siege in a book or show or movie or something, let us know. Because I'm curious.
Imagine the siege in A Clash of Kings, Song of Ice and Fire, being this uneventful.
Wasn't it?
Imagine George R. R. Martin writing a scene where while the city is under siege from Stannis, Cersei and Sansa go dress shopping and Joffrey gets a haircut.
Are you kidding me? That sounds like the awesomest part. That would be so awkward for Sansa.
It would ridiculous beyond belief, and that is what this book read like. Sanderson writes war like a child.
Oh my gosh. Again,
And
just being mean.
And there's one thing I want to point out. Stannis never besieged King's Landing.
I was trying to imagine what the hell they were talking about.
Stannis showed up, had one battle, and retreated. He never put the city under siege.
Do they know what a siege is?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Oh my god, do they think that a siege is a war?
Yeah, because it's not when you approach a city to fight it, it's when you starve them out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you wait them out instead of running in. Yeah, I don't think they understand.
You may be right.
Yeah, because, yeah, that's not right.
The biggest problem...
That'd be hilarious.
No, I think you're correct. I can't imagine what else it would be, especially with that example. No, because especially if they just watched the show, like that all, if I recall, that all happened pretty quick in there.
The biggest problem is that I just don't care, and apathy is the death to motivation. Even the questions I asked, I don't care about the answers anymore. They should have been answered in book 1, not book 2 of a trilogy, especially when the first book was over 600 pages long. It's bland. So bland, I can't stand it anymore. I don't like any of the characters. I don't care about the plot. What is the Well of Ascension? I don't know, and I don't give a shit. Why is the Mist killing people? Couldn't care less. Who's the imposter? Don't know, but I sincerely hope that whoever it kills, or I sincerely hope that whoever it is kills all the characters, especially the Vin and Elend. Gods, I hate them.
God. Kills all
Oh
the
my
characters.
goodness.
Well, what is it? Bye, Felicia? That was a thing 10 years ago, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I feel bad for people like this because I'm like, man, do you enjoy anything in life? Like, all those answers and things like that, if you take the time to try to look at it and enjoy it, you could be happy instead of like this. Like, this is just a hater. Negative.
I want to know their thing. Where like all these questions should have been answered in book 1, not book 2 of a trilogy. It's like, oh, so what's the point of books 2 and 3 if you're not answering anything there?
Yeah, build up, suspense.
Was this the same person who said the book was too long, or was that the last review?
Yeah, they said it was too long.
All right. Well, that's why. They would like to just read one simple little book, and I'm surprised they weren't.
Not a book reader.
I'm surprised they didn't complain that it...
Go ahead, sorry.
Go back to what?
Just flipping through TikToks and things, like, if you need it that quick. Like...
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Just want things to be entertaining and told you flat out for your,
your dopamine hit.
Yeah. A book, especially a trilogy, especially a long, epic fantasy like this, it is not about the hits. It's about the journey. So just get out then and stop writing fucking reviews about it.
Yeah, journey before destination. 1 star.
Really
let me just finish this last line. 1 star, closer to 0.5 than 1.5. Definitely not reading book 3.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear it. I was worried you were going to, and I'd have to listen to your review. I wonder when people write these if they know they're ever going to be made fun of on a podcast someday.
And like I said, I got this idea from listening to a different podcast. So some of these reviews got made fun of on 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it becomes a bigger thing, I bet I would look that up. if it's a 1-star review for this book, and wait, I wrote one of those. Like,
Oh my
gonna
God, I'm
say.
famous.
I hope you
I'm
cry when you
surprised.
listen to this. It's
I'm
not fun to
surprised
have
they're.
people be mean to you, is it?
Are you saying on behalf of the book?
Yeah, on behalf of the book, the characters, Brandon Sanderson,
Oh,
the
I don't
fans
think
who
Brandon Sanderson cares. You know how much money he made off of this book?
I know, but I just think it's mean and to just hate on something that people like and stuff
I
without
have heard you
really.
hate on things people like many times. You want to give us your
Well,
She-Hulk review, Shayna?
do people like that?
There are people who like it.
Okay, you know what? Let's have a discussion. Tell me why. Maybe you can change my mind, but I doubt it.
They also hate men. The end. And comic fans
um,
and comics and everything fun, and they
okay,
hate good
here's
writing
the
as well.
difference. I'm not going to their comment section and being mean about it if they like it. That's all. I'm just keeping that to myself. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. It's just, and then it's only this, I would never be in this situation. It's only because of Joe that I have to listen to the reviews. Otherwise, I would just be like, you do you over there. I will never have to come into contact with you. But because of how this is, I have to face it. And this is why I hate this.
And this is why I do it, for reactions like this.
Mm.
Yeah, Shayna, if you want it to stop, you got to stop having such a negative reaction. You've got to be like, oh, these are fine. This is fun, actually. I love this.
Oh my
Then
God.
everyone will be like, no, we're done. We're
Oh,
done.
this is boring now.
Yep.
I find them hilarious to read. I just find them just so ridiculous and funny.
I literally get a headache from these.
I'm sure they'll be twice as annoying next time because it'll be people who read 3 books and complained about it.
Yeah, and be like, what are you doing? Why are you even doing this?
It's going to be people who are like, I can never not finish something.
I see. I was like, that sounds like a you problem.
Mm-hmm.
See, and I feel like I'm not in a position to complain about them because I would usually just not read these. So if I'm like complaining about the person, my argument would be like, then just don't read these reviews.
Well, then you'd be missing out on the truth, Shada. So that's all I got to say about that.
A truth?
The truth. I've been convinced these books suck.
Oh my gosh.
Brandon Sanderson's a hack, and I'll never read another one again.
I will
I
have to
don't
say,
believe.
going through all the reviews on here, I like how almost all of them are like, Zane sucks, Zane's worst character, Zane was worthless, all this. Then the one review, Zane was the best character in the book.
If only Brandon Sanderson had the balls to portray a toxic relationship positively, then this would have been a great book.
Sometimes I really feel like we see things revealed about these people who are writing these reviews. I'm just like, dude, like you are just putting yourself out there too much.
All right.
I mean, if they like
say,
Zane too, then they are, we have something in common.
all right. So let's wrap it up. Any final thoughts on these reviews you two want to throw out there?
I hate them. I don't want to do these.
I have learned a lot about humanity, and I'm starting to think Ruin might be right.
Yeah, kill the world.
I found them very entertaining, and I laughed a lot while reading them.
I'm not as resilient.
All right. Well,
I've learned that Brandon Sanderson is a sexist, and he doesn't know how to write
Misogynist.
anything, and that if he was actually open-minded and pro-woman, he would have had her get with Zane because that's apparently what is healthy and good. That's what I've learned.
I also learned that people don't have emotions. That's normal.
Most
That was my
1-star
favorite review.
reviewers. Oh yeah, okay, my favorite quote that I have to put on a t-shirt. They killed the importance of my life. Do you remember that?
Yep. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this. Join us next week for whatever chapters of whatever book we were reading. And at some point, you can also listen to our Hero of Ages 1-star reviews. So, bye, everyone.